confrontation. In a distant era, when the chronicles of time were recorded in the depths of collective memory and reverence for the divine shaped the destiny of nations, there arises the emblematic figure of Elijah, one of the most exalted prophets in the venerable biblical tradition. The story of this messenger of God, whose name resonates with the testimony that my God is Yahweh, offers a window into the ancient world and its spiritual and earthly dynamics. Our story begins in a period marked by turbulence and moral deviations under the reign of Ahab, the king of Israel. His throne was sullied by the influence of Jezebel, his consort, who drove the people into the abyss of idolatry, surrendering to the charms and rituals of Baal, a pagan deity. It was into this scene of apostasy and spiritual desolation that Elijah emerged, not by proclamations of noble lineage or earthly riches, but by his fearless actions and the indomitable divine call that burned in his spirit. Elijah's first intervention, as the book of 1 Kings chapter 17 tells us, is the proclamation of a severe drought over the land of Israel. This was no mere meteorological adversity. It represented a profound manifestation of divine discontent in the face of rampant idolatry. For 3 long years, the heavens were closed and the once fertile land became barren. This extreme natural phenomenon not only testified against the moral degradation of the people, but also served as an arduous test of Elijah's own faith and resilience. Within this tapestry of challenges and revelations, our journey to explore the life of Elijah seeks to transcend the simple historical narrative. We try to reveal how the adventures of this prophet not only narrate events from a forgotten time, but also how his lessons of faith, courage, and unwavering dedication to the divine call resonate through the centuries until they reach the hearts of the contemporary faithful. With this exploration, we invite people of all ages to reflect on the eternal values that the Elijah saga distills through the ages. It is an opportunity to, together, learn how perseverance in times of trial and fidelity to moral and spiritual principles can illuminate our paths in the daily challenges of modern life. Thus, we will immerse ourselves in the sacred scriptures, seeking not only to know a prophet and his time, but also to discover how his stories can inspire and guide our own spiritual journeys today. In the vastness of biblical narratives, few episodes capture the essence of spiritual heroism as vividly as the saga of Elijah, the Tishbite prophet, whose life was a brilliant testimony to the courage to stand alone against the tide of conformity and idolatry. Elijah, whose name echoes through the ages as an echo of his faith, my God is Yahweh, is a beacon of inspiration to all who seek the true essence of divine devotion. The core of Elijah's legacy can be glimpsed in his fearless confrontation with the forces that threaten to dilute and divert the pure faith of his people. At the apex of his prophetic journey, we find the memorable confrontation on Mount Carmel, a true spiritual and historical crossroads. There, before an assembly of Israel and facing 450 prophets of Baal, Elijah not only defended the supremacy of the God of Israel, but also challenged the prevailing notions of power and deity that had corrupted the hearts of the people. This episode is not only a demonstration of divine power, but a study of character and faith. Elijah, alone on the mountaintop, performed a simple but profound act of faith. He built an altar, laid out the wood, placed the sacrifice, and then prayed. His prayer did not seek personal recognition, but rather the reaffirmation of the faith of his people. The result was dramatic and definitive. Fire descended from the heavens, consuming the Holocaust, a palpable response seen by all, which reaffirmed the sovereignty of the one true God, returning hearts and minds to genuine worship. However, Elias's life also reveals the depths of the human experience, touching on themes of loneliness and despair. Following the overwhelming victory at Mount Carmel, Elijah found himself fleeing for his life from the wrath of Jezebel, who vowed to avenge the death of her prophets. It is in this moment of flight into the desert that Elijah experiences desolation and isolation, feelings that many believers can recognize in their own journeys of faith. God, in his infinite wisdom and compassion, did not leave Elijah helpless. The prophet was sustained by an angel, fed and comforted to continue his journey to Mount Horeb. There, Elijah found God not in the grandiose manifestations of earthquakes or fire, as many would expect, but in a gentle, calm breeze. This interaction teaches us that the divine presence is not limited to spectacular displays of power, but is also manifested in the subtleties and silences in which the voice of God can be heard, offering comfort and direction even in the moments of greatest adversity. Therefore, the story of Elijah is an invitation to reflect on our own faith and how we face the challenges and adversities of life. It encourages us to seek God not only in resounding victories, but also in lonely stillnesses, reminding us that even in the darkest moments we are not alone. Elijah, with his life full of challenges and triumphs, shows us that true faith lies in continuous and unwavering trust in the presence and sovereignty of God, regardless of external circumstances. In the multifaceted tapestry of the biblical narrative, Elijah's life is not only a mosaic of divine interventions and epic confrontations, but also a profound lesson in humanity, mentorship, and the transmission of wisdom. Among the many dimensions of his legacy, one of the most significant is his relationship with Elisha, his disciple and successor, an episode that reveals a crucial aspect of the spiritual life, the importance of preparing people, next generations. Elijah, whose ministry was marked by palpable demonstrations of God's power, also understood the need to ensure the continuity of that divine work beyond his physical presence. The choice of Elisha as his successor was not random, but the result of careful observation and divine guidance. The moment when Elijah passes the mantle from him to Elisha is loaded with symbolism and meaning, representing not only the transfer of authority, but also the passing of the prophetic spirit that Elijah carried. This scene, one of the most emblematic of the Old Testament, symbolizes the continued commitment to God's mission, transcending generational barriers. The act of passing the mantle, occurring near the end of Elijah's earthly ministry, serves as a powerful reminder of the need for mentoring and preparation. Elisha, in receiving the mantle, not only inherits Elijah's position, but also a call to continue with the same unwavering faith and commitment to the truth. This gesture teaches that true spiritual leadership involves preparing others to face their own challenges and continue the mission of spreading the divine word. Elijah's life, therefore, is not reduced to isolated moments of greatness. He encapsulates a perpetual commitment to faith, demonstrated both in his public actions and in his personal interactions. His lessons in courage, faithfulness, and mentorship are complemented by his example of constantly seeking God, even in periods of silence and apparent divine absence. Elijah's journey shows that true faith is not measured only by victories on spiritual battlefields, but also by the ability to face loneliness, fear, and uncertainty, remaining faithful to God's call. Every step on Elijah's path, from immense challenges to moments of intimacy and vulnerability, was guided by deep faith. That faith was not only manifested in the clamor for miraculous interventions, but also in the stillness of preparation and care for his successor. Elijah teaches us that the true legacy of a believer lies not only in the achievements achieved, but in shared wisdom and the ability to inspire and equip others so that they too can follow the path of righteousness. Thus, the story of Elijah is an exhortation to all believers to cultivate courage, resilience, and wisdom, not only for themselves, but to strengthen and prepare those who will follow in their footsteps on the journey of faith. As we contemplate the life of Elijah, we find an inexhaustible source of lessons and inspirations. As one of the greatest prophets in biblical tradition, his story transcends the ages, offering a mirror to our own lives and the challenges we face. Elijah was not a supernatural being distant from human feelings. On the contrary, he shared the same passions, fears, and longings that all of us experience. However, what sets Elijah apart is how his unwavering faith in God guided him through life's most severe storms, transforming not only his destiny, but that of an entire nation. Elijah's narrative invites us to deep reflection on the nature of our faith and how we handle everyday adversities. At the core of his journey, we find a resonant calling for each of us, to be a light in the midst of darkness, to be a harbor of hope in times of despair, and to stand firm in faith, even in the face of disbelief and disbelief. Opposition. Elijah's life exemplifies that true faith is not a mere assent to beliefs or a superficial adherence to rituals, Chronicles. It is a profound transformation that permeates every aspect of existence. Furthermore, Elijah's legacy emphasizes the critical importance of repentance and spiritual renewal. His dramatic confrontation on Mount Carmel stands out not only as a battle against the prophets of Baal, but as a deeper combat against Israel's spiritual apathy and forgetfulness about her true purpose and alliance with God. In this climactic event, Elijah not only challenges the false prophets, but cries out to the people for a return to true worship. He reveals that repentance is an essential step for any spiritual renewal. It is a call to a radical change of heart and attitude, renouncing the idolatries and falsehoods that frequently seduce and mislead. This return to sincere and devout worship is crucial because it reflects a willingness to reject the distortions and conveniences of the moment in favor of a deeper and truer commitment to the divine. Elijah, with his courageous action, teaches us that repentance is not merely a liturgical act, but a complete reorientation of life toward God, free of commitment to what is false and ephemeral. Therefore, Elijah's journey serves not only as a story of ancient struggles and spiritual victories, but also as a continuing guide for our own spiritual journey. He encourages us to evaluate the depth and authenticity of our faith, to face our own Carmel mountains with courage and conviction, and to seek a sincere and deeper relationship with the divine. Thus, as we reflect on the life of Elijah, we are inspired to follow a path of true faith, genuine repentance, and unwavering dedication, essential elements for anyone who wishes to not only confront the storms of life, but transform them into sources of strength and renewal. Spiritual. Elijah's life also highlights the importance of prayer and constant communication with God. His prayers were not just requests for divine intervention, but deep conversations with the Creator, seeking guidance and comfort in moments of uncertainty. This shows us that prayer should be a constant practice not only in times of crisis, but as an integral part of our daily lives, strengthening our relationship with God and increasing our spiritual resilience. The secret of Elijah even reveals that true strength does not come from our human abilities, but from the power that God grants us when we trust in Him. Every miracle and every trial faced by Elijah demonstrates that when God is at our side, we are capable of achieving much more than we imagine. This truth is a call to trust more deeply in the power of God and less in our own strength. By carefully examining the life of the prophet Elijah, we discover not only a series of miraculous events, but a profound lesson about the essence and power of prayer. Elijah, a central figure in the biblical canon, did not use prayer only as a resource in times of despair. On the contrary, it was the foundation of his existence and ministry. His communications with God were not limited to requests for divine intervention, but were true conversations, full of sincerity and seeking guidance. He sought comfort in words with the Creator, especially in moments of greatest uncertainty and isolation. For Elijah, prayer was a constant practice, a continuous dialogue that permeated every aspect of his life, illustrating a deep dependence and trust in divine will and providence. This perspective on prayer is fundamental, as it underscores the idea that prayer should not be seen merely as a response to crises, but as an integral and constant part of the daily life of a believer. Through prayer, Elijah strengthened his relationship with God, which in turn increased his spiritual resilience and his ability to face the adversities that came his way. Furthermore, Elijah's journey reveals a powerful principle about the true source of strength in our lives. The scriptures show us that Elijah, despite his prophetic abilities, did not trust his human abilities to face the challenges he encountered. Instead, his strength came from the power that God granted him, once he placed his full trust in the Lord. This is a crucial teaching for all of us. True strength does not lie in our human abilities, but is a divine gift, accessible through faith and trust in God. Every miracle performed and every adversity overcome by Elijah are not only demonstrations of the power of God, but also testimonies of the transformative capacity of faith. When we trust in God as Elijah did, we are enabled to accomplish far beyond what our human limitations would suggest. This truth is not only a central component of the Elijah narrative, but also a timeless call for all of us to trust more deeply in divine power and less in our own strength. Thus, the story of Elijah becomes a valuable guide for contemporary spiritual practice. He encourages us to embrace prayer as a daily practice, not only seeking divine interventions, but also cultivating an ongoing and intimate relationship with God. At the same time, it challenges us to recognize that our greatest strength can be found in unwavering faith in God, which enables us to face great challenges and transcend human barriers. Therefore, as we reflect on the life of Elijah, we are reminded that the practice of prayer and trust in divine power are essential for a spiritually rich and resilient life. May we, like Elijah, integrate prayer into every aspect of our lives and learn to trust more deeply in the God who calls us to greater works than we can imagine. As we examine the life of the prophet Elijah, we discover a treasure of virtues that form the core of his story, one that transcends millennia and continues to resonate with relevance in our era. This treasure is a rich tapestry of faith, courage, prayer, and humility, elements that not only defined Elijah's ministry, but are essential for anyone seeking to make a difference in his world. An iconic figure in biblical tradition, Elijah is frequently remembered for his dramatic acts of divine power, such as calling down fire from heaven or raising the dead. However, his true greatness can be most deeply perceived in his ability to remain faithful even under extreme adversity. His life teaches us about the importance of maintaining faith when we are surrounded by doubts and fears, and about the power of prayer as a means of direct and constant communication with God. Elijah's bravery was not merely physical, but deeply spiritual. He faced corrupt kings and idolatrous societies with the same conviction and integrity, challenging not only political structures, but confronting the very heart of a culture that had strayed from its divine principles. This courage is a call for each of us today, encouraging us to be agents of change, to face the moral and ethical challenges of our time with unwavering faith. Furthermore, Elijah's humility, often manifested in his willingness to be used by God even in isolation or despair, is a powerful reminder that true service to God seeks not applause or recognition, but the faithful execution of God's will. Divine. Elijah's life lights the way not only for deeper personal faith, but for a guiding influence on others toward truth and salvation. As we conclude our journey through Elijah's experiences, we are brought to a deep appreciation for his life dedicated to the pursuit of God. May the story of Elijah inspire each of us to cultivate a deeper and more committed relationship with God, following the example of this great prophet. May we, like Elijah, perceive the continuing presence of God in our lives, allowing that presence to transform us and equip us to face each challenge with the confidence that we are not alone. Therefore, the message left by Elijah's life is timeless and universal, suitable for all ages and cultures.